Why Evangelion Taught Me to Be a Better Writer. Hi, I'm Joshua, welcome to my author channel. This is Miko. She wouldn't leave me alone today, so I'm gonna record with her until she decides to leave. Um, so, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Whether you've watched the series or not, you've probably heard the name if you've hung out in anime circles for any amount of time ever, because there's always gonna be somebody who says it's the greatest thing that ever was. And I mean, I can't really disagree. There's definitely reasons why, I get why people don't like it. Um, but I'm one of those people that do. It's very quickly become one of my favorite shows, anime or Western live action, just overall, for various reasons, which is, I find very interesting. Why is that? Because usually, I don't like it when the protagonists are 14-year-olds. Because 14-year-olds are cringy, and it doesn't make any sense, usually, why they're the ones dealing with the big bad guy. Like, especially if it's high fantasy or high sci-fi or something, like Evangelion is. Mythic science fiction. It's basically fantasy with a sci-fi veneer, which is... that can be pretty fun, and it definitely is in Evangelion. But in this world, it works, you know? It speaks to something when the writer can explain why something's happening. Now, we don't really understand why until the end of the series. This is definitely a series that it's famous for being very ambiguous and hard to understand. And there's a lot of stuff that goes unexplained even by the end of Evangelion, which is the end of Evangelion. I'm not talking about the rebuild movies in this analysis, deconstruction, conversation, whatever you want to call this, because I watched up to about halfway through the third movie in the rebuilds, and I had to turn it off because it was just it wasn't Evangelion. If you like those movies, more power to you. That third movie was just so not Eva that I had to turn it off, and I'm not going to subject myself to that again. Might be the original creator who made those, but he's a very different artist at this point than he was in the mid-90s when he made Eva, and he does not have the same priorities, and I don't like his newer stuff when it comes to Evangelion. I haven't seen his other art, but this is about Neon Genesis Evangelion and End of Evangelion, because that, for me, is just... mwah, chef's kiss. So good. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. The characters, though all horribly flawed, and I totally understand why so many people really hate Shinji Ikari, the main character, our protagonist, is a whiny, depressed, submissive 14-year-old boy, and a lot of people don't like that. I don't know. I don't have a problem with him as a character. As a person, I would not want to spend any time with him. But that goes for a lot of these characters in this show. They all feel like real people, even though it's anime from the 90s and the world they live in is nothing like the real world. The people feel real. My suspension of disbelief is totally suspended. And I buy the decisions these characters make, and sometimes it's not explained, often not explained, why a person does what they do. But that's the case in real life. Most of the time, people don't know why they do the things that they do, let alone other people watching them do it have any idea. So, we have Miss Misato, who, oh, say what you will about the Netflix dub, her voice actor is just. I would so party with her. Oh wow, yeah. Specifically the Netflix dub. That voice actor for her is just so perfect for me, at least. I also prefer the English dub of Frieren for the same reason. There's just the timbre of it. There's just the texture. I don't know. It just hits me. But End of Evangelion, and even through the series beforehand, she does some questionable things. With a 14-year-old boy. And it's kind of like, But it it's her character. It is what it is. And the same goes for Asuka and Rei. They're both, I mean, I guess minor spoilers. I'll try not to go in too much in depth because there are people that have done way more in depth plot and character analysis, and I doubt I can say a whole lot of original things that somebody else hasn't already figured out or said. And so, minor spoilers. Our three our three main characters, the three 14-year-olds, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka, are all really messed up. Like, their childhoods weren't really childhoods. They live in a world where it's alternate history. The year 2000, a horrendous event took place, and the world went in a very different direction than our real world went in. But even ignoring the backstory and why these specific 14-year-olds have to be the people that are trying to save the world, and it's actually explained why, which I really appreciate. I'm totally okay with it because it's explained well in a way that I buy as an audience member. I totally buy it within the context of everything else that's happening. And even ignoring that, this is just not a world where children get to grow up as children. They have to grow up very, very fast because things suck. The seasons don't happen anymore. It is perpetual summer. Like, around the globe, I guess, because Earth's axis got screwed up during this climactic event that destroyed the entirety of Antarctica when the first impact happened. I'll say one thing about the plot, because it is so ambiguous, and looking online, there's so many different fan theories, and this and that, and all this, like, the external materials that were talked about by cast and crew and the writers in the decades since Evangelion came out. People have plucked and put together and all these different things. It's like, if you enjoy that process, if you like the theory crafting, awesome. Have at it. If enjoy the media that you enjoy in the way that you enjoy it. I know, that's like blasphemy to some people for some reason. If you don't enjoy, they say, if you don't enjoy what I like the way I like it, you're wrong. This is art. This is entertainment. Enjoy what you enjoy the way you enjoy it. Subjectivity. It's so crazy to think about subjectivity and art, right? I mean, everything. Art is objective. But, anyway, the creator did not care about the plot and the world building. He's gone on record and said that he used all that Like, there's a lot of really intense Christian symbolism. He he's gone on record and stated that he used the Christian symbolism because it looked cool. It's not that deep. The last two episodes of Evangelion tells us to our face exactly what this show is about. And it's about the characters coming to terms with their varying versions of depression. Because the guy was in a depressive hole when he made it. He was very depressed, and you can tell because basically everybody is. A moment that really struck me personally, because I've had a moment like this myself at one point in my life, was near the end of the series. Not a huge spoiler, hopefully, where Asuka, after having failed, truly failed, and been basically sort of spoilery, sorry. She's basically been discarded by the Nerve Project, and they don't really care. Nobody cares. And she's just found an abandoned house and is just laying in an empty bathtub, staring at the rotted, blown up ceiling. Just there. Empty. Hollow inside. And it's like, man. Yeah, that's some real crap right there, man. And the moment where another one earlier in the series where Shinji is just on the train and the camera is over top just watching as he's sitting there in this spot listening to his Walkman, and the different, and it was cheap, it was easy to do because they had budget problems. It's this 90s anime. It's just some people are in the train, they fade out. Other people come onto the train, they fade out. And it's all just still images, super simple. It's simple, but man, just with 30 seconds, however long that scene is, you can, it's just, he's sitting there, unmoving, hollow inside, all day, until the train stops. And it's just, oh, well, yeah, that's just so raw and real. And that brings me back to the title of the video, which is why it taught me to be a better writer, how it taught me to be a better writer. And Neon Genesis Evangelion taught me, don't just listen to the writing advice that says, take your character, make your character suffer. That is something that's very common in writing advice. Push them to their limit and past it. Neon Genesis Evangelion takes that a step further. Break them psychologically. Beyond the point that most other fiction has broken its characters. I mean, these people are shattered by the time that this series is over. Like, things start out pretty intense, they get kind of, fairly lighthearted, and then it's just, as bad as it can get psychologically. Obviously, there are stories that have gone darker, that do worse things. Berserk. But at the same time, these characters, these children, are taken beyond the brink of insanity, and it's beautiful in a way, because okay, fine, screw it, spoilers for the ending, because it's kind of impossible to talk about the piece that the author clearly cared most about without discussing the ending, because the ending makes everything. And in my opinion, I really love synergizing the last two episodes with End of Evangelion. Technically, especially if you follow the new canon with the rebuilds, they're sort of they exist in parallel. They're not really the same. It's not one or the other, but it's not both technically according to the canon. I like both existing. I think they both can exist quite easily together. There's a couple little pieces that don't quite line up because End of Eva was made 2 years later without the intent of synergizing them, so it like works 90-95% sort of. But I still, just the vibe you get from that 2.5 hour experience of doing End of Eva, inserting the last two episodes where it makes sense to, and then finishing End of Eva. It's all about going as deep in that depressive hole as you possibly can, and then coming out the other side. The end, it's not, they're not better. They're not okay when it's all set and done. But they're on the path. Yes, we could have seen further in that process, in the healing process of Shinji and Asuka post everything, trying to figure it out, maybe getting along, maybe not. It's, again, very ambiguous. And it's just, oh, I love it. It's great because depression doesn't just go away. Things are not always just better. Things can be okay, sort of. And often, that's the best you can hope for in certain situations. After the absolute just catastrophes that have happened to these teenagers, by the time everything is done, being sort of okay is, I think, the most you could hope for. And then the rest of their lives, they are in the process. But we don't need to see that, because we're just seeing this portion of their lives. As Frank Herbert said, the story never ends, it's just where you end it, It's the same with the beginning. A story is always there. These characters, can be as fleshed out and real as the creator of that story wants them to be. And so that's another reason why I refuse to finish the rebuilds, because we get our happy ending. Evangelion is not about ending happy. It's about trying to be sort of okay after horrific tragedy. And it's, I don't know, it is said that people that really love that really love Evangelion are the people that have felt these things themselves. So maybe that's why it just strikes a chord with me myself. But yeah, like, teenage me, I only watched Evangelion shortly after I watched Frieren. So a few months ago, I'm not a teenager. I really wonder how different I would have done things had I watched it when I was younger. Because it really is that impactful. Like, it's... Because with the ending, the reason I really like having the final two episodes mixed with End of Eva is because we get all the physical external drama of End of Eva and the cool fights and that last scene on the beach with the red ocean. But the last two episodes are all about coming to terms with yourself. Because Shinji and Asuka and even Rei have hated themselves kind of their entire lives. Through no fault of their own, really. They are products of their environment, like everyone is. Genetics and environment. And Shinji, I mean, his dad is Gendo, and his dad is basically him. Worst case scenario for Shinji himself when he's grown up is becoming his dad. And it's just like, yeah, man, Gendo, I mean, he hates himself too. Like, these characters, even Misato, it's so sad. These characters are depressed and they hate themselves. But the last two episodes, when everything is very Buddhist, we've been getting a lot of Christian symbolism through most of this, but now we're going full Buddhism with the Human Instrumentality Project, where everybody's souls have merged into sort of a horrific like cosmic horror Lovecraftian version of Buddhist enlightenment, where everyone can see into the depths of everyone else's souls. And as awful as it is, I totally see where those cultists were coming from, who thought, like, the whole purpose of that was the only way for humans to stop killing each other and hating each other and destroying ourselves is to force us to see it all. Push past the boundaries of this, only I know what's in here. Only you can really feel what's inside here. And that layer is stripped back, stripped bare, and it pushes into perception of self and of reality, and how none of us can really know anything. There is a you within you, and there is a you that exists in your parents. There is a you that exists in the minds of your friends, of your enemies, of your lovers, of your haters. And all of those people, all of those yous are just as valid as the you in here. And it's like, yeah, sure, there are some people that I've seen online saying there's no real depth to any of this. People know that. No, they don't. Maybe you do, but you must have had a very strange upbringing if you're aware of those things. Because most people, they never think about it like that. And here we have a story. That's the reason that I love it so much, because it's a story that ultimately is a self-help process to getting over depression. And by the end of it, it's like, no, you're not okay. This is a lifelong, potentially, process of getting through this, or at the very least, it's gonna take a lot longer than it takes to get through 26 episodes and a movie. It takes months at least, years often. Some people spend their entire life and they never figure that lesson out. That, like with Shinji himself, he hates himself. And because he hates himself, he thinks everyone else hates him. When people offer help, he's like, oh, but they're just doing that because it's the thing that's expected. Because, I mean, they're Japanese. There's a lot of social expectations in that culture. There are in other cultures, but especially in East Asian cultures and Japan and all this, there's a lot of expectation of behavior. And so he thinks that Misato is being nice to him because it's expected. No, she's being nice because she wants to help him. And the whole conflict with Asuka, and all of that horrible stuff, and the misunderstandings and miscommunication and misperceptions, and it's just, oh man, yeah, I I love it. And yes, there are some people who think that's not that deep. That is as deep as it can get, man. That is, perception is reality type stuff. How the inner workings of your own mind are the traps that leave you miserable. Happiness is a choice, like all this, like, as much as there's a lot of visual Christian symbolism, it's really a Buddhist tale. And I should know that because I've studied quite a bit of Buddhism for my own book, which has Taoism and Confucianism in it too, because it's based off of Imperial China. Cough, cough. Go check out the link below, and you can read the first 5 chapters for free. Cough, cough. Ha! So, yeah. Neon Genesis Evangelion, man. It's some wild, dark, twisted stuff. I totally get why some people really don't like it. I guess I can sort of understand why people like the rebuilds, but again, I've not watched the fourth one. I know that's like the best one, and whatever. I really like what we got from the series and End of Eva, so at least for the time being, I'm really happy with that. And also, to those who have watched them and will go and say, "Oh, you haven't experienced you don't have the real Eva experience until you watch them." The last movie came out in 2019. Are you really saying Evangelion was incomplete for over 20 years? Even though we got the movie called End of Evangelion in 1997, and it won Anime of the Year award, tied with Princess Mononoke. I didn't know that until I was doing some research for a different thing that came out in 1997, a different anime. But I mean, that was a heck of a year for anime films. I'll have to do a video on Mononoke at some point, because that's also one of my favorites. Just in general, one of my favorite movies. Yeah, it's. I could keep blabbering, but I think I got most of the core points I wanted to discuss about Evangelion here. It's a journey. It really is a journey, and if you've watched it, let me know what your opinions are. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you lukewarm on it? If you haven't watched it, sorry for the spoilers. Are you interested? Did this get you interested to check it out? I put off watching it for so long. It was on my radar as like something I knew I wanted to watch for probably a decade. And I kind of wish I'd watched it sooner, but at the same time, at the point I am in my life, it hit as feelings I've had before. It didn't help me through my depression, but it just resonated. So, yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows. It's great. I can't recommend it for everyone. It is really twisted. There's a lot of Freudian psychology in there, for sure. Especially with Misato, who even herself points out that why she left Kenji was no, not name here. It's been a while since I watched it. I watched it twice back to back, but it's been a little while. The reason she left him was because she'd moved in with a boy who was essentially her father. So it's like straight up one of the characters even points out, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of Freudian psychology here." But yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's some great stuff, great writing. It takes everybody down the depths, and then shows the light on the other side. It doesn't make everything better. It's with End of Eva plus the final two episodes. It's not that everything is better. It's that maybe things can be okay someday. Anyway, I already plugged the link below, so I won't do that again. Thanks so much for watching to the end. I'll see you next time.